call for any reports that comes to mind. All right, just welcome back to The Verdict. We're coming to you live from Lagos. It's a day after the elections, and already we've got lots of reactions coming through. We've heard INEC speak about several reports that we've called up, several reports that are coming to our studios. They are aware of a lot of them. But yes, they're also taking a look at some of those and others coming through to their situation room. So we'll expect INEC to speak up on a lot more of some of these scenarios as they are playing themselves out.
Indeed, we'll be expecting to hear, especially on some of those areas that INEC says that it will reconduct some of the elections, and maybe some other areas which have been highlighted from reports that are coming through, and INEC hasn't really said taken a definitive stance on that. We're expecting that we'll hear more from them, and in particular reference about some kind of arrest that was done in River State by some party and holding someone in hostage. We'll like all of that clarified at the moment, but also looking at some of the criteria that was mentioned by Yaga. Remember, Samuel Itodo was on set earlier on, and he talked about those critical 5 points that must be met before an election is declared valid or invalid. Talking about the legal framework, the independence of the INEC, as regards the whether or not the process was interfered with, and then the neutrality of INEC and its officials, the security agencies, which happens to be a big bone of contention at the moment. We did hear from Mr. Dan, rather, from the lecturer, who said that the police were actually there, stationed at that in Agor, and that's in Okota, and they got a call, and then they left the place. So we would like to have a clarification at whatever point we can get that clarification. Where did that phone call come from? The response that followed afterwards. Why did the police have to leave to give way for hoodlums to cash in on the situation and you know, scatter the whole process?
Well, according to him, that is an allegation, so to speak. According to him, was just an eyewitness. How credible that is, well needs to be seen. Which brings me to those famous words during the election: free, fair, credible elections. Free, okay, if you are 18 and above and you have registered, you're free to vote. Fair, all political parties have the opportunity. Credible, whether or not we can take it to the bank and say, yes, this represents the will of the people. But there's a new word that is coming into the lexicon now: safe. And that's what number 4 of Sam Itodo's list is about. Now, elections have been postponed in some areas. These elections are going to be retaken. So how safe would anyone feel to go out there again to cast a vote?
Well, let's check, and our correspondents are in different locations. Let's see, Ibrahim Adra, for instance, he will be, well, okay, that's not coming through yet at the moment, but we'll hope to see what happens when he is eventually ready to take us through some of those particular items as we proceed.
Needless to say, interest. Yeah. I'm very interested in those statistics that Yaga Africa came through with, and saying that we had about 92% use of the smart card reader for these elections so far. That's the statistics that they gave, and there's 7% in some polling units. No, in polling units across the country, 7% of smart card readers was not used whatsoever. So what will be the stance of that by INEC? And then he talked about 5% of polling units had their smart card readers used but failed and were not replaced. Those are interesting statistics that I think going forward will be analyzed in the coming days.
They'll need to double check on that.
Yes, they said that they'll need to double check on that. But having to vote without going through the process, not using the smart card reader to check your biometrics, verify your card, your PVC, and then having people to vote. He says about 1% of that across the nation went through that way to get to vote without going through the smart card reader. So that's a point of concern. And that provision, we want to know from INEC, that provision on the ballot paper where Dr. Sam talked about where Dr. Dan talked about where you can thumbprint and that vote becomes valid.
You know, one of the questions that I had in the run-up to this election was, okay, so which one is stronger? The voter card, the permanent voter card, or the registrar? Or the register, beg your pardon. Clearly, from what we have seen, there is that from a particular regulation that Chamberlain quoted earlier in the conversation that we had. It said the smart card reader or any other thing that you know, the INEC would find valid. So that also means that, well, the smart card reader is a very, very important one. But in the event that it's not, something happened, then it brings you back to that same card reader, the register, which is raising a number of questions here now. Going forward, I'm very, very sure from what everyone has been saying, election management has become a topic that has to be addressed.
Well, you know, different stages of that you need to go through before you're eventually issued the ballot paper. So whether or not those processes, steps were adhered to in Section 11 of the electoral guidelines is what INEC will be determining. But now Ibrahim Adra is ready for us, and he can give us some information concerning the day after the big day. Hello, Ibrahim.
Yeah, hello guys. It's truly the day after, and for the average citizen in Katsina State, it's truly the day after. Life has gone back to normal. What you get to see is once in a while a group of people who would come together and they're discussing what they call the results, you know, those figures that have been posted online. But the true situation here, this is where the action is right now at the INEC local government office here in Katsina. It's located on Kabir Usman Road, GRA. I found that address, and then we came here. It's a fairly small room, as you can see behind me, but one that will determine the political fortunes of those who contested for the National Assembly elections. So we're here, and I'm told that collation officers from across the local government, including security personnel and party agents, are gathered in here. I don't know if you can see behind me, it's been pretty busy for them this morning. I have the electoral officer for INEC, Katsina local government area, Mr. Matthew Oguche, who will be talking. Mr. Matthew, thank you very much for speaking with Channels Television.
You are welcome. Good morning.
It must have been a very busy period for you, starting yesterday and today. Tell me exactly what's going on in this hall at the moment.
At the moment, the collation of presidential and national assembly election is ongoing. It has been peaceful. All the elections conducted in Katsina local government has been peaceful. And our material went on time, and they came back on time, and we are collecting the result now.
What exactly are we expecting from this collation? I see a whole lot of people. Where are they coming from?
Most of them are coming from the various wards. We have 12 wards in Katsina local government, and we have 281 polling units and 220 polling voting points, making a total of 501 voting centers. So all the collation officers that went to various wards are now back, and they are submitting their results.
When you put together these results, which I assume you would in a short time, what happens next?
Now, when we put on the results in a short while, the winner will emerge in senatorial district as well as federal House of Representative collation.
Is that your call to make? Are you the one that will be announcing that result?
Exactly. The result of House of Representative will be announced here, as well as that of Senate, which comprises of 11 local governments.
Now, how about the presidential election? Where is that going to be announced?
The presidential election will be announced at Abuja. We'll move it from here to state, from state to Abuja.
Okay, so result for presidential will move to the INEC state headquarters, and then from there to Abuja. But you're confident that this collation would happen in the next hour or two?
Exactly.
All right, we'll hope to come back to you then and see how it's going. Thank you very much for speaking. That's Mr. Matthew Oguche. He's the electoral officer for Katsina local government INEC office. So you heard it from him. What we'll do is stick around somewhere until that announcement of results begin, and we'll be able to get back to you and give you an update. Basically, that's it from this end.
All right, then, Ibrahim, it's good to know there isn't any security challenge at the moment, or is there, just before you go?
No, I must say from what we see on ground, Katsina local government is pretty much secured, if you would ask me. I mean, the presence of security officials is visible everywhere, and like you heard from him, we haven't had of a single case of any disturbance from any area here. I've also been speaking with my colleague here, Abdurrahman, who is in Katsina. He's made contact with a lot of the local government area, and the story is the same, that it's been a pretty peaceful election. For instance, on our way in here, the security is intimidating, is really huge from outside. And even in this hall, as we see, as I speak to you, there are security personnel, some in plain clothes, some in uniform, who told me they're here to ensure that everything goes well. So in terms of security, I think unless we get further information that contradicts this, we could safely say that Katsina has been pretty peaceful and secured.
Okay, Ibrahim, because security happens to be very cardinal in the whole process leading up to the elections, during the elections, and even after the elections, including collation. And people are wondering where you are in Katsina. Is there military presence there? Are the army uniforms being seen everywhere other than the police?
No, not from what I've seen. And I did travel from Katsina through Mashi local government and one other local government before getting to Daura. From my discussions, from my interaction and what we see, there was no military presence around the polling unit. Of course, there are a couple of checkpoints that are strategically placed, one just before you get into Daura, and one was positioned right in front of some military formation here in the state capital. There they have checkpoints. They are not actually checking. What they do is, of course, you're being slowed down because there is a barricade and you pass through. So on the roads, yes. But around the polling unit, there are no military personnel, no military presence whatsoever. We haven't seen any of those, except perhaps in places where we have not covered.
All right, Ibrahim, so we'll let you catch up with while we await the results of those elections. Thank you for talking to us today.